former president of the Nigerian Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, has said that the suspended acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, took his rejection by the upper legislative chamber he led personally and came after him. He said this much in his Twitter handle on Friday. His comments come in reaction to a court order on Thursday which dismissed the move by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, seeking the final forfeiture of 2 houses in Ilorin, Kwara State belonging to him. The court had granted an interim order of forfeiture following an application by the EFCC. However, in his ruling delivered on Thursday, Justice Rilwan Aikawa of the Federal High Court held that the contention of the EFCC that the property was acquired with illegal funds was based on mere suspicions. Data feeds, of course, coming through in one place simultaneously on our social media platforms on channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channels, where you can follow us on Apple, Android, Fire, Roku TV as well. Tweet at Gimbo Umar CTV, use the hashtag State of the Nation, and let's get your thoughts in. How well is the country able to deal with conflict resolution? With secession whispers from the outlawed IPOB, who has asked the US to appoint a special envoy to Nigeria, saying that many people are being killed. We'll take a look at that as well as myriads of conflicts in the country. Can they be fixed though? What happens in a prolonged instance of conflict? This prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone to State of the Nation. I am Gimbo Umar. Now, the second stanza of our national anthem says a lot, especially the ending part of it, which says, "Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign." Perhaps that captures in its totality the very essence of the need to resolve issues, failure of which conflict will be given rise to destabilize any nation. A professor of political science and one-time external affairs minister, Bolaji Akinyemi, in a recent webinar said, for peaceful resolutions of conflicts, there must be 3 elements in place: leadership, morality, and nation state. Take a listen. Our peace and conflict is a social science field that identifies and analyzes violence and non-violent behaviors, as well as the structural mechanism with a view to understanding those processes which led to a more desirable human condition. Tracy Chapman, that's the American musician, in her song "Why?" asked, why are the missiles called peacekeepers when they are meant to kill? A food for thought. Domesticating another question, she asked, why does a woman not feel safe in her home? The Nigerian context is by no means a better narrative, with insurgency in the northeast, communal clashes in the north central, and religious conflicts, as well as domestic violence easily broken down to rising cases of rape in the country in recent times. Let's have a perspective look at the conflict resolution process that we're going through in our country. Yunusa Tanko is the former National Conscience Party presidential candidate in the 2019 general elections. He joins us via Skype from Kaduna. Many thanks indeed for joining us on this day. Let's begin from where you are. That's in Kaduna State. As a matter of fact, we know that that's your state of origin, so it's a good place to start, isn't it? Now, time and again, conflict breaks out in the southern part of your state. Why is that?
Okay, Jimba, thank you very much for having me. And, you know, let us first of all look at the context of what actually is conflict and conflict resolution. Conflict, of course, is a disagreement, and resolving it is a way of finding a solution between 2 people or group of individual or organization that has a disagreement within themselves. The disagreement can be as a result of personal issue, financial issue, political, or even emotional. But when these disputes arises, often the best way of solving this particular problem is through negotiation. And there are 5 strategies of getting these resolutions done. 1, you could avoid, you could accommodate, you could compromise, or you could view a compelling situation or collaboration. Now, in this situation, when you ask as regard to why is it happening sometimes in Kaduna, well, Kaduna has been my abode for as long as I can remember. The conflict within the issue in Kaduna has been purely the issue of traditionally believe that we are not included. The southern Kaduna part of this state feels at a point in time they were being excluded from the governance and probably being carried along in the governance of the state. The religious issue now come into being where people feel that they are being separated because of their religious beliefs. And then economic situation also now comes in. The issue of economy look like this, where people feel that certain parts of the state, especially the northern part of the state, are more at an advantaged position when we regard to issue of financial benefits that accrue to the state. Then finally, where the issue of emotion comes into place is where there are issues that probably some people feel their own spouses or their own children, female or male, they are being segregated from having an affair with their male or female counterpart. Then politically, it is always believed that yes, the situation in the north, in the Kaduna state, is that politically, certain people feel that okay, yes, we are not allowed to have an opportunity to govern the state when the situation of that nature arises. These are some of the issues that has happened in a very long time in Kaduna State. Unfortunately, I must confess, at a point in time, Kaduna has been living peacefully with its brothers and sisters in the south, in the southern Kaduna and in the north. Because if you have been in Kaduna, Kaduna has been a very fantastic place to stay. You find both north and southern Kaduna people living together, sharing a lot of things together. That was what I grew up to see. And it has been a beautiful thing. And there has been concerted effort in trying to resolve some of these particular conflicts, where eventually we've had a position where a southern Kaduna indigene has become the governor of the state, and then we have deputies.
Okay, if I may jump in, let's look at some of those hypotheses that are just here and there. Some seem to support the fact that reprisals are the major cause of conflict in Kaduna, one that makes communal form. It takes a communal form. I think we've gotten reports of that as well. But obviously, the government has tried to step into this kind of situations to stop killings over the years. But it has continued to, be very pervasive. Is the government missing a point? What actually is the government not getting right?
Okay, trust is what the government is not getting right. They've not been able to get the trust of the southern Kaduna people that the government can really take a position. Let me quickly go back. Remember, Gimba, I was a member of the National Peace Committee that was led by very action-packed former president of the head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that is Abdulsalam Abubakar. And I was in the same vehicle with him. We traveled for a conflict resolution issue which arises almost after the 2015 general election. And and he was telling me some of the sites in which he has served as a training officer on the road from Kafanchan to Abuja, and showed me some of those places. And when we are having the meeting, we had first meetings with retired generals who are who domicile in Kaduna, who are indigenous of Kaduna. In fact, that was the first time I would meet General Agwai and the rest of them, quite a lot of them. And the complaint was that even Agwai was part of the conflict resolution mechanism that was put in place by the governor, Governor Nasiru El-Rufai. But unfortunately, they felt that some of the suggestions that they were being given were not adhered to, neither were they being picked. And that was a point for me. Then we moved to the palace of the leader of the Kaduna South people, and a lot of the leaders and traditional leaders were in place. In fact, there was majority of them are ex-army officers. There's one of the army officers who was so close to General Abdulsalam Abubakar, who told him that at a point in time he feels as if he is not a Nigerian. Neither is he thinking that he's a Kaduna State indigene. Because most of the suggestions that he has given for a peaceful resolution have not been taken. The same.
What would you then,
now,
that same place, that same point, did you at any point come across some of those recommendations, and what will they be? Or do you, as an individual, have solutions to how we should go about tackling issues that has to do with conflict resolution?
Yes. I now come across an interesting individual who happened to be a colleague of mine from the same Ahmadu Bello University, who was telling me some of the challenges that they had as youth. So because the team has graduated from the top level to the youth level. So now let's even look at the resolution or solution that you are asking questions about. Now, the truth about it is that there are profound solutions that we can leverage on. We need to find a way, just like what is happening, like Arwan now has become the speaker, or first of all, he was SA to the governor on media and all. And I must say, the gentleman did a fantastic work before he was not navigated to being the minister, commissioner for interior and security, if my information is getting me right. So now, if we could move ahead, and then the governor went ahead to do something interesting by picking somebody from the Southern Kaduna who is not of that particular religion, or a Christian, but she's a Muslim. Now, picking that person was to show that, yes, we are all together. You can have a Muslim or a Christian in the Southern Kaduna, and yet does not stop that particular person from being inclusive in government. You can also have a Christian from the northern part of Kaduna, because there are northern Christians too in Kaduna, as a governor of Kaduna, coming from the northern part of Kaduna and picking a Christian brother from southern Kaduna. Gradually, this issue of divide will fizzle out. And I think it's a good mechanism if that can happen. Then secondly, the issue of the youth. You know, the youth have a different perspective into this particular triangle of enmity. They go out in the evening and mix with their brothers and sisters who are northerners, and they party. They go to clubs and all of those things. That's another way of getting closer to it. Then academically, it must be ensured that children from the northern part of Kaduna goes to school, like, for example, in Kafanchan and the rest. And then we have southern Kaduna people also coming to ABU and KASU and the rest of them. That way we can start integrating again, just like the way we used to, without separation or calling each other names, because it doesn't do anybody any good. After all, what are you looking for? Comfortability, so that you can work in anywhere of any part of the state. You can mobilize, you can socialize, and everywhere you can go freely from one part of the state to another. That is the mechanism that can really work. You need to instill this particular belief and trust among the youth and then the older generation.
That's a good place to let you rest. I must thank you so much indeed, Yunusa Tanko. Always a delight speaking to you on the show. But when State of the Nation returns, he took it personal, Saraki says, as the court orders the return of seized property, which emanated from the embattled acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, Magu. Stay with us. Welcome back to State of the Nation. Dr. Bukola Saraki has said that the suspended chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Ibrahim Magu, took his rejection by the upper legislative chamber he led personally and came after him. The former Senate president disclosed this in a statement via Twitter on Friday. He said, in part, "Today, as always, I thank the Almighty Allah as I welcome the judgment of the Federal High Court in Lagos by the Honorable Justice Rwan Ekawa, in which the court dismissed it in its totality, the application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, for a forfeiture order on my home in Ilorin, Kwara State. I am particularly happy that the court specifically ruled that there was no evidence that the property was built with any illicit or stolen funds from the Kwara State government or any other institution or quarter whatsoever. The last 5 years have been very challenging, he says, for me and my family. I have endured and defeated one false allegation and malicious litigation after another in an ill-motivated persecution, intimidation and harassment through which some vested interest sought to damage my name and label me with charges of corruption. But with the grace of God, I have always been victorious. I thank God for the outcome of this case, which is the fifth victory in cases in which the EFCC was either the main investigating agency or the plaintiff. Let's now analyze this further. Olarewaju Siraj is a lawyer. He joins me via Skype from downtown Lagos. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on State of the Nation. What do you make of Dr. Bukola Saraki's tweet earlier today?
Thank you very much. Let me also just correct that I'm actually not a lawyer, but I'm a public affairs analyst and also anti-corruption activist. Luckily, I've been around for enough time to remember, and also Google can also be the assistant for anybody who wants to start with the allegation, or also the submission of Dr. Bukola Saraki to say that, he's been only investigated under Magu, for instance, or that, his investigation and prosecution was due to the rejection of Magu as the EFCC chairman. Even you have more dramatic situation of where the wife of Dr. Saraki was invited by EFCC and was followed there like a bodyguard, by the former Senator Dino Melai to EFCC office under Lamode. So that is to say, and confirmed to everybody that the investigation and prosecution of Saraki actually predated the arrival of Magu as the acting chairman of EFCC. Be that as it may, the sad aspect of the development in terms of judicial adjudication on some of these corruption cases and illicit assets by public office holder is the attempt by Nigerian courts, and that is why the maxim would say that justice should not only be done, but it should be seen to be done. So where it is said that there's no evidence to show that the property in question were built with proceeds of crime, and good enough, I think the Supreme Court already rose to the challenge by shifting the onus on the suspect to actually prove that the proceeds of crime or assets or suspected assets were not actually proceeds of crime and were built through or procured through legitimate earnings. So unfortunately, in this case, the judge is asking for EFCC to prove that it came from proceeds of crime, whereas the onus is shifted by the Supreme Court.
From what you've seen now, does it then suggest to anyone who is watching this that Dr. Saraki may not just be the only person in this kind of situation, because the EFCC has actually carried out a lot of investigations, a lot of arrests, and has alleged in many instances about people who've been corruptly, who it labeled as corruptly amassing wealth that belongs to the nation?
Oh, yes. Quite a lot of the public office holders, not just politicians, even civil servants, are under now the pressure from the court and also the process of adjudication to provide legitimate defense for any of the assets that they possess. So the era of where the prosecuting agency will have to go looking for evidence, considering the fact that quite a number of people that are affected usually would not either buy property in their names or directly, even sometimes in their family names, or use money that would go directly from their accounts. So you've seen where accounts are open for house helps without even the house helps knowing they possess such an account. So sometimes it will be definitely many times be difficult for the prosecuting agencies to prove, but it is meant for the suspects to defend yourself in this case. And when you look at the decision of in this particular case, it said, oh, okay, Dr. Bukola Saraki had said, I have joined private fund with the provision that the public office retirement, whatever benefit of Kwara State allowed for the government to build a property for me. So in the law, the government either builds a property for you or you build your own. I have not seen where you joined or combined money together and say, okay, so don't worry, we'll join the money together and then we build a property. This is actually questionable.
Now, the visuals you're seeing, the visuals you're looking at right now with Magu himself, wherein he said that allegations against him is nonsense. Those are his words as soon as he was released on bail. He said that those allegations are nonsense. He said this upon that release we saw just a couple of days back. But is the action or the judgment of the court a hasty one? Now that Magu seems to have gathered his thoughts together and is coming out to say that what your supposition has been all the while is actually not the case.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the allegation with Magu, you've not really seen any evidence. So it's a complete different case. So we're talking about a property. In the case of Dr. Saraki, where you are pointing to the evidence, of the case, is different from just the allegation with Magu, and that is a challenge. We've not even seen a single bank account with the name of Magu. You've not seen the asset in the name of even the property that was said to be bought in Dubai. Nobody has shown you the address or even a picture of the property or property documents to show that. So that is a difference. So when you are confronted with the evidence, that is when you are required, expected to then come back and then show evidence of whatever it is that you have been accused of acquiring illegitimately.
Okay, then let's take a look at this one. This is what the former president of the Senate said. He said that it is obvious that the EFCC leadership, under its erstwhile acting chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Magu, decided to take the issue of his non-confirmation by the 8th Senate, which I led personally. However, I know that the Senate, under my leadership, only followed the due and normal procedure during the confirmation process, and we never executed any personal agenda against Magu. What's your interpretation of that particular point that Dr. Saraki raised?
It is just a point that is usually, and I would say mere rhetorics that you will have with public office holders when they usually want to hoodwink, Nigerians, when, they attempt to stand logic on its head, and because they just want to take advantage of, Nigerians, sometimes, ignorance, in making this statement. Dr. Bukola Saraki was charged before the Code of Conduct Tribunal, even before Magu took office, and he was going on with the Code of Conduct Bureau. And we all saw what happened with that experience, how the Senate was debased to the extent that people were actually following, senators were abandoning their legislative responsibilities to visit the Code of Conduct Tribunal in terms of also supporting Dr. Bukola Saraki in the trial before the Code of Conduct Tribunal. So we can read political, and it's very easy for many former public office holders to quickly resort to, political persecution when they are actually called to answer for some of the infractions that they're suspected to have committed in office. But it is extremely difficult for those who understand the issues to believe those kind of, narratives when they are put forward, because you can even see, we all know. So let us forget about even what the court says. Let many of the public office holder, can Dr. Bukola Saraki, who has not really owned any legitimate serious business beyond the collapse, Societe Generale Bank, point at evidence of other sources beyond public office where monies were realized to build the kind of empire that the president presently boasts of.
I think that for that we will have to ask him when we're able to get him to respond to your point. But I most sincerely thank you because we're short of time at this moment. Olarewaju Suraji, public affairs analyst, many thanks indeed for talking to us. Always a pleasure seeing you once again here on State of the Nation. And
Thank
to everyone
you.
who's been part of the show, thank you as well for watching. I'm Gimba Umar, and this is State of the Nation. Bye for now.